Our generation is misinformed.
Dude, our generation is highly misinformed. Doesn't matter if you're on the left or if you're on the right. Both sides are highly misinformed.
I do feel our generation is heavily misinformed sometimes because of social media. A lot of the times they just see
Yeah.
movements as sort of a trend without looking into them, and I feel that happened so much. They'll just go with it, and I feel like a lot of the times it makes it very easy for us to kind of just be tailed by the government, and I feel that we need to do a lot better job at looking into things and really reading into things and starting to take facts over feelings.
The problem is nobody wants to seek the truth. We're not designed, human beings aren't designed to seek the truth. We have all this information at our fingertips with Google and all that, but we just don't want to get outside our comfort zone. We want to be surrounded by what we feel is right, what we feel comfortable with. We can't handle the truth basically.
Yeah, because it's 10 times easier to just look at something and accept it as truth than to go and do your research and find counterclaims or something that aligns with that. Because if you're just sitting there like scrolling through TikTok and somebody says that this is happening, I mean, like, who's gonna? It's not really.
Educate yourself.
Yeah.
I strongly agree with both of you guys. I think the reason why I was hesitant about walking over is even though I agree that our generation is misinformed, that doesn't mean that older generations aren't also misinformed, especially, in
Facebook.
the form of, for like Gen X and the baby boomers or whatever. Cable news in particular, you have millions of Americans
CNN,
now who are tuning
Fox
in every
News.
night to see Tucker Carlson spread misinformation. I don't want to pick on him in particular, but he's an example. Social media is just another example of what's been going on for generations and generations.
Like, I argued with this girl on Twitter about the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, and she was just saying like he endorses the KKK, this and that, and I'm like, where did you get this information from? She's like, he was in a Facebook group. I was like, actually no, they did research. Like, Facebook did their research, and like he wasn't a part of that, like the Boogaloo or whatever. And she was like, so you're gonna trust Facebook? I'm like, well, you're just going off of conspiracy theories. It's the same thing with the people on the right when they go off of conspiracy theories, like, oh, Trump won and all that, anti-vax. They're all conspiracy theories. Nobody can handle the truth.
Of people, just with all due respect, being too lazy to do their own research and just believing what other people tell them.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you guys, but I also wanted to add that as a generation, we don't have good examples of politicians and how they disagree and agree anymore. When my parents were younger, they used to watch the politicians in the Senate and the House have like great lively debates and come to a conclusion in the end, and you would see how they were speaking and how they bounced off each other's opinions. And now that we don't have that example anymore, we're forced to get our information from social media, and a lot of the news channels these days are heavily biased. And because of that, I feel like as a generation, we're heavily misinformed. My dad and I spoke to each other a lot about politics, and since I was a liberal at that time and he was a conservative, we would have a lot of debates. I would find myself growing and becoming more moderate just because the things he said and the things I listened to and the things I researched because of points that he made to me, I would find myself transitioning into more of a moderate.
If you're a hardcore right-leaning, where you believe everything Fox News says, you're crazy. If you're a hardcore left-leaning, where you believe everything CNN says, you're also crazy. Like, there needs to be a middle ground. Well, there has to be a middle ground. You could take some from both sides, but the truth is always somewhere in the middle. And it's okay to get outside your comfort zone and talk to people with different viewpoints. That's all right. It won't kill you. It'll help you in the long run. It'll make you more. Even if you don't agree with those points, it'll help you. It will help you shoot down those arguments a lot more because you're going to end up doing more research and stuff like that. So you have to introduce yourself to like different viewpoints and stuff like that. stuff like that.
I disagreed because in 2022, truth is becoming less and less objective and more subjective. And there will always be objective truth, but humanity will stray further and further from that, especially when a lie can be attached to an emotion. You see, we are thinking less and less critically and more emotionally as a whole. And so when you see something like, for instance, George Floyd, May of 2020, that just strikes your heart. First thing you want to do, go to Instagram and post a black square. Now, what is that doing? I don't quite know.
so stupid.
But what it made you feel was like you did something to help that poor
Hold up, they've had him on before. I think he's a conservative. Yeah.
fellow who got a terrible thing that happened to him.
When I was hearing this question, I was thinking like, is the majority of like my generation, aka the people I know, misinformed? And I would definitely say yeah. I feel like the lack of information is like almost as bad as like receiving the wrong information.
I want to touch up on something you said. I think it is true that social media did change the way we receive information, whether that is misinformation or the truth. But that doesn't make us misinformed because of that. Obviously, like, yes, you have social media, it's so much easier to get information, but I don't think because we have social media that automatically makes you misinformed.
I'm a little confused.
My parents influenced my political beliefs.
Actually, my parents are not very left leaning, but they're left leaning and not kind of the opposite. I'm more middle right, so yeah.
I'm in a conservative Christian household in Iowa, so I'm very, very well around like conservative politics all the time, and my parents have absolutely influenced like not only my morals but my political beliefs through that manner. And I think a lot of those teachings actually led me to being more progressive and more liberal over time, rather than actually being conservative.
Yeah, for me it's kind of similar. My dad is Christian, but in Vietnam they have this thing where actually like they practice both Buddhism and Christianity. From both religions, both Buddhism and Christianity, it's always taught about like we as a community need to take care of each other, we need to respect each other, and we need to create like the best society we can. My parents not like directly telling me like, oh, you should believe this or you should believe that, but just the way that they have taught morals to me and also their own personal experiences have influenced my own beliefs.
In Buddhism, it's basically what can you do that is the best for others. Of course, not everyone agrees with my beliefs, but regardless of that, I still want them to have happiness in life.
I'd say my parents gave me probably one of the most interesting childhoods out there. I was observant, so I watched my community, and when I saw how things had progressed in my community and then sort of just stopped, especially during the housing recession and crash in 2007 and 8, I had a deep question as to why aren't things getting better. They didn't teach me anything. They let me learn my own way, because if they had taught me something, I wouldn't have had the thirst to know more.
So why did you step forward?
I stepped forward because I believe without them, I could have had some other sort of beliefs, but I felt that what they taught me pushed me down my path.
Okay. So I became a conservative in 2018, and I became that based off my research. I was actually a liberal before that, just because everyone else around me was a liberal. I would vote for Trump in the upcoming election over Biden or over anyone else that runs against him. He embraces free market economics just like I do. We need less government spending. We need to cut taxes. We need to cut government spending, and Donald Trump would definitely do that.
Are your parents conservative?
They are actually, but politics never came up in my family before Trump became president. So they did not influence me to be a conservative.
But there were 2 years in between,
It happened a lot. Like up until I guess 2016, a lot more people got into politics. I want to say Trump kind of paved the way for a lot of like all the liberals we see now. I would say that's because of Trump.
Trump being inaugurated in 2017, and then if it was like late or mid 2018, about a year and a half of Trump being in office, running headlines, a lot of big things happening. Are you sure none of that and their commentary at the dinner table maybe didn't influence?
No, I remember 2016 election, they didn't say a thing about who they wanted.
That's hard. That's hard.
I know, I'm telling you. It just didn't come up. And obviously this country is way more political now than it was 10 years ago. But I'm telling you, I just became a conservative based off my own research.
Our whole entire family is very much on the left, like Democratic, liberal, but my mom she was not, and she would claim that she was a Republican, but I don't think she knows a damn thing about what that means. But like, she
Shots fired.
right. But there was a lot of tension, whenever we would talk about certain political things that I would bring up. And then my brother, he's very right-leaning. One day I like came home and they were going through like a journal of mine that was like just of like my liberal views and like Black Lives Matter, stuff like that.
That's cool.
And then I realized that in that moment, I was like, we aren't on the same page.
Hey, if you liked the video, why don't you leave a thumbs up? If you want more content, don't forget to subscribe, because why not?